won't get you coffee at the coffee shop.
Everybody ready? Eddie, you're the official timekeeper. What time do you have, sir? Oh, it is? My Timex is a little off. Okay, I'll call this workshop of the Commissioners of the City of Sweetwater to order at this time. Everybody call the order and a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hughes.
Present.
Commissioner Mosier.
Here?
Commissioner Richardson absent. Commissioner Jinks.
Here.
Commissioner Stutz.
Here.
All right. This has been advertised as a call meeting. We do have a quorum. First, we will open a public hearing on ordinance number 1048 to amend the hotel motel tax. Is there anyone present here to make a public comment on this ordinance? Okay, the public hearing is closed. We will now take action on ordinance number 1048. Everybody familiar with ordinance 1048? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion for approval of ordinance 1048 as submitted.
Is there? Motion's been made and second. Any discussion at this time? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Mosier.
Aye.
Commissioner Jinks.
No.
Commissioner Stutz.
Aye.
Did you say aye?
He did.
Commissioner Stutz,
Yes.
did you say aye?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. We did not have anyone registered for the public comment period for the remainder of the agenda. We have one item in discussion requested by Commissioner Jinks for the additional crosswalk signal in downtown. Commissioner Jinks,
So we.
would you like to bring this up for discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we've
Is your,
had the
is
one.
your microphone on?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, now I can hear myself. Okay. As everybody knows, we already have one of these signal crosswalks at the gazebo, and we would like to put another one at the Hunter's Crossing. We feel that that one and those two are our most dangerous pedestrian crossings. But I know that when we put the first one up, there was a lot of talk about whether or not we wanted to. If we wanted to keep with just one, but we've been at this a little bit while, so I think everybody can see if they do or if they don't like the crosswalk that we have now. So if everybody's okay with the crosswalk that we have now, we're not asking for any money. We can use the budget that we already have, but we would like to purchase another one in the 2026 year. But we're just asking your guys' opinion as to, do you want another one or do you not like it and you don't want another one?
What's the cost of those?
I think it was about $12,000 for the one that we have at the gazebo.
Well, personally, I think it would be a good idea, in my opinion. I mean, that is it's just about as dangerous as, and it would give those businesses, I think, a little bit, people would be more tend to go over to Hunters and those other businesses if there was some lighting there and precautionary measures taken. Okay, anybody else?
Do we have enough traffic on that crosswalk during the daytime?
Yeah, we have quite a bit of traffic there, and it's so congested already when you're turning into the little plaza there that it really gives. I don't know if you've noticed, but the one at the gazebo, it almost gives people time to turn out from the parking lot. So we're hoping that if we have another one at Hunter's, it would also give a little bit more time for people to pull out of Hunter's if there's a lot of traffic and it's back to back. I'm not exactly sure what's happening with traffic in Sweetwater, but it is bumper to bumper recently, and so it's really hard to get out of some of those. So by having those actual flashing lights, it does slow the traffic down. It gives them opportunity to really see how many vehicles are around them, who is trying to come out. and that kind of stuff. So I think it adds a lot more safety than just the fact that we have fewer people being hit in the crosswalk.
Eddie, you're the safety director. What's your opinion?
I agree with everything that Ms. Jenkins said. You know, we look at them down there. I'm not saying it's in a dark area where it's at already, but it's kind of like if you're traveling north on Highway 11. To me, I've noticed that the pedestrian kind of blends in when they're standing there at Hunter's on the corner, and I think this would give them an opportunity to push that button and that light come on and make it. I think if the money's available and as they're saying it is, I mean, even if it weren't, it's something I feel is needed. The only thing, and I think what Ms. Jenkins talking about, at one time people was talking about a lot of flashing lights downtown and stuff like that, that we might get some feedback from that. But as far as the safety issue, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer on safety. I mean, it's
Okay. Anybody else got an opinion or any discussion?
I mean, the only thing I would add to it is, being a user and an observer of the one that we have in place, I think to add that additional layer and second layer of safety is beneficial to the whole city.
Okay.
We need a motion.
No, we'll put this on the agenda for Monday night. Is that okay with everybody? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joanna. Jessica now has some updates for the board. Jessica?
Okay. Couple of things. In your packet, there was some information about the traffic light maintenance. So the utility board has always done this for us, operation of the traffic lights. We pay on our utility bill every month a monthly amount to the utility board for the maintenance of those traffic lights. They have a couple people certified to work on those that they send to a class in Alabama to get certified. That certification time is coming up. The utility board has decided that they are not going to maintain the traffic lights themselves anymore, but they're going to subcontract it out to Stansel Electric. So Eric thought it would be prudent to come to us and ask us if we just wanted to contract directly with Stansel Electric. The difference would be we would no longer be paying the utility board that infrastructure charge. That infrastructure charge has to be 10% of the net asset on the books. So that traffic light is valued, the old ones that were put in for $18,000. So we're paying on $18,000 traffic lights. The new traffic light at Red Stag is a $332,000 traffic light. So the cost would go from $24,000 a year, what we pay now, once we add those two new lights on at Red Stag. The cost will go to $86,000 a year. So first of all, it's going to cost us $60,000 more if we stay the way we're operating right now. The other option is contract directly with Stansel Electric. That initial upfront fee is around $5,600 a year to do annual maintenance. That's like their required baseline. They contract with them, they do an annual maintenance on those lights of $5,600 to make sure that they're not getting called out all hours of the night because there's a traffic light that's out. I've already talked to Commissioner Setz about this as he's the liaison for the utility board, and they had a meeting, I believe, today that mentioned it at their utility board meeting. I've checked with Chief Byram about this and David Moses, and also Landon Purdy. Mostly because if we were to take over this maintenance, I would prefer to send a couple of our own employees to the class in Alabama. And I'm thinking one from police, one from streets, and Landon is IT, because the newest traffic lights are very IT heavy. So it's no longer the old electrical, mechanical type operation. It's cameras and computers and things that probably Landon would be better suited for. So even if we left the same amount in the budget that we have right now, and we started July 1st, we transferred the maintenance, we signed a maintenance agreement with Stansel Electric. They would do a per call charge. So if, if the traffic light goes down in the middle of the day, Stansel Electric has 2 hours to get here and service it. If it's something really quick and easy like flipping a switch, we still have the guys at the utility board that know how to do those things, and they've agreed for quick, easy fixes. They'd be happy to run out here and help us with it and show some of our guys how to do that easy stuff. But Stansel Electric's, even if, I looked back at the utility board for the last 6 months, how many times I've had to be called. You're talking about $12,000 to $13,000 a year if we handle it in the same way. So even just leaving the same $24,000 that we have budgeted in the budget right now, under the current agreement, we could send several people to the class and contract with Stansel Electric and probably not exceed what's in the budget. for next year. So we don't have to vote on this tonight, but I wanted to bring it up and let you all know that this is the discussion we're having, see if there was any real pushback to it or real concerns.
When do the
About it.
utility board have to know?
I asked them if they could give us till July 1st. Technically, they should have already put, I think this month in May is probably when they should be adding that new red light to us. The one that is already completed out at Red Stag, because the contractor keeps it for a year and maintains it, I think, and then they turn it over to utility board. So technically the utility board should have probably already been charging us our fee on that, but Eric said he thought he could work it to where July 1st is where we can make all this transition over. The other thing I wanted to point out is when that second red light comes out, the one that they have not constructed yet, that's going to be on the other side of the interstate, that if you all recall, TDOT asked us before, would we maintain that red light once it's constructed? We agreed to, because we wanted to be the ones getting the call, because we know if people are coming off the interstate or there's an issue there, they're going to call Sweetwater anyway, thinking it's our light to maintain. Technically, that light is in the county. It's outside the city limits. So I checked with Mayor Mitch Ingram last week, and he agreed that anytime we had to pay to have Stanzel come to Sweetwater to fix that red light that's in the county, if we would agree to put it on our contract, that the county would reimburse us whatever that charge is for them to come down. And he agreed to sign something in writing, and John Cleveland's gonna draft something to the county and send that to them. So it'll still be us that gets the call, and I think that's probably, we all agree how we want it to be, because we wanna know if that light's down, because it's gonna cause issues in Sweetwater. So we will get the call and handle that, and be the ones to call Stanzel down. And we'll obviously have to sign an actual contract with Stanzel, so that will be on an agenda for you all to vote on. But before I went to the trouble of getting all that together, I wanted to make sure there was no huge opposition to this. To me, it's this or add $60,000 to the budget and let the utility board, and that never goes away. That infrastructure cost is always the same. It never depreciates off. You always are paying 10%, and that's a TVA rule. It's not something the utility board can choose to do. It's a statute that's under TVA, so they determine the cost.
Okay, put it on the agenda for Monday night. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah. Jessica, you said there was a flat fee for Stanzel was 56,
Think
and
so.
is it a set rate every time they come out? Did you say what that you may have? And
It's $200 or $300 for the call itself, and then it's mileage, and so I mean it's, you know, it can add up. That's why I did the look back period. Yeah, there is a paper in the packet that kind of describes what the rates are, and I'm sure when we get to the point of actually signing a contract with them, they will have all those rates broken down in the contract. That before you all vote on it, you'll see all those. But the main thing is, if we use them about the same as what Sweetwater Utility Board's been using them for the last 6 months, we should still be to the good.
So, based on this breakdown, there's not a, like I say, if they come out, it's going to be at least, say, $500. It's how many that has to come out, how long they're here. Okay.
And I mean, I think an average call, a lot of times it's less than $500 for them to just come out and fix something. But so I think it's beneficial to have our guys do at least the phase 1 training. That way, the very simple stuff we can handle that.
Okay.
And not have to call them.
Eric encouraged us at our utility board meeting that we go ahead and get at least a couple of guys certified. And, you know, he's, again, said they'd come help in the interim, so we felt comfortable with it. Because sometimes it's simple things where all you gotta do is push a reset on a circuit or something like that we could go do ourselves, which they do. That's why they have certified folks. And it's only, like Jessica said, these new lights at Red Stag are more technologically advanced. And this is just the stop lights. It's not the flashing caution lights, it's not the school zone lights. They'll still have those. And these assets will actually transfer off of their books and onto our books.
Thank you for saying that.
So-
That should have been a key point of mine. So this, you know, say $800,000 worth of traffic lights that we now, instead of it being a utility board asset, it will be transferred to the city of Sweetwater and be on our audit and our books as an
And that
asset.
TVA requirement is 10% of the value. So we'd be looking at $86,000 next year if we leave it like it is.
And so we're saying that we're gonna send 3 guys. They all have slightly different skills, but all together we feel that they're gonna make a great team doing this electrical stuff. And if they go to this training and they like it and they do well and wanna continue, will eventually not have to use this company?
I think we'll always have to use Stancil.
Yes.
I just think this will keep us from doing 4 or 5 $500 trips a year. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably a certain number of things that are just gonna be a reset and simple to fix that we can do in-house. I think we will always have to have, and the reason for that would be the liability. Obviously, traffic lights could be a huge liability if we messed up something or we didn't reset it correctly and we didn't, give people notice that this traffic light wasn't working. I think we'd always wanna have Stanzel on retainer and doing that once a year maintenance, because they're gonna come in and check the wires, make sure nothing's gonna fall on your
Yeah.
head while you're driving.
They'll do the
I mean,
whole
like,
system.
multiple things.
When they come annually, they do the whole system, from the lights through the wiring, back to the box, wires in the,
Sonia got excited. She loves traffic lights. I didn't know what I was going
you like traffic lights? or-
I love traffic lights.
Okay.
If this company's gonna come in and take care of these things on a regular basis, or when they got problems, you're gonna call them, they're gonna come in. Why are we spending taxpayers' money sending people to school?
Well, I don't want to have to wait 3 hours every single time the traffic lights are down. And a lot of the times they'll have someone going to, they do Athens and Loudoun and several other cities also. So they might, catch us on the way to or from one of those cities and it not be a 3-hour wait, but technically they have 2 hours, whereas I might be able to send David Moses out there and it'll be fixed in 10 minutes. You're having to pay a police officer to stand down there and work that intersection the entire time the traffic light is out. So just what we would save on not having a police officer stand down there and work the traffic light would be.
Well, we sent Eddie down there, he ain't done nothing anyway.
Eddie's had to work a lot of shifts lately.
What I'm saying is they can do, this team you're talking about, I think that's a fabulous idea, because a lot of times utility board, I've actually called them and watched, there's something you reset, I don't know, I'll try Commissioner to push it, I may get it wrong.
I think it'll be great, Eddie.
It sounds like there's a opportunity for savings as well. Did I hear that correctly?
$60,000
Okay.
would be the difference, yeah,
Okay.
if we do this.
And we do
in-house
still get
instead.
the electric bill every month. The electric bill part of it.
Yeah, we still
But
have to pay the
We just don't have
usage.
to pay that 10% asset value that TVA requires.
Yeah.
Cool.
And as Sweetwater grows, eventually we'll have to add more traffic lights. And obviously traffic lights cost a lot more now than they did 20 years ago, so.
Then we'll have to send them what, against more training, right?
Probably. The next thing, I'm gonna skip over 150th because I've got that in the quarterly report. The revenue for city transportation mod. This is a revenue that shows up on our monthly state shared tax revenue. And when the legislature voted it in, it was supposed to be when electric vehicles, I think, renew their tags, they send a portion of that to the city to help offset the fact that we're not gonna have, sorry, let me turn this on. That ringing is really crazy. Okay. The electric vehicles will have a extra amount on their tags, and part of that revenue is sent to the cities to offset what they're not gonna get in state street aid tax, because state street aid comes from gasoline tax. So as electric vehicles get more popular, you're not gonna have as much tax funding coming into state street aid because there's less gasoline tax, they're not having to fill up as much. In theory, this was supposed to help offset state street aid revenue. Well, the legislators failed to put in there that it had to be allocated to state street aid. So I checked with MTAS because we have been putting it to state street aid or have not?
We have, because
We have
that
been.
was the direction I got in the beginning.
Right. In the beginning, they told us, yes, point it to state street aid. And then they told us, no, don't put it to state street aid because the legislation was passed without that caveat in there. So it has to go general fund. I think it should be state street aid. That is why they passed it. That's what the offset is supposed to be. Sonia, how much money are we talking about? A couple $100 a month?
$229 a month.
Yes. So we're not talking about a huge amount of money, but it may increase as years go on. But I guess what I would feel most comfortable with is if you all actually allocated that money to state street aid and we continued putting it in state street aid. That way it's not just us making that decision, it will be an actual board vote. So if y'all are okay with that, I'll put that on the May 5th agenda.
Please do.
And then HR extension of health insurance, we're gonna talk about in the quarterly financial report. And so the grant update. So I'm gonna move to that. This is required by the charter that we give a financial report every quarter. I've put in here the total revenues that we've collected. That first line is your budget amount, and the second line is what we've actually gotten so far. So we've gotten 75% of our general fund revenues. We've spent about 72% of our general fund expenditures, so the department heads are doing a good job staying within their budget and not spending everything in July and not having anything to get them through the rest of the year. They've done a good job of keeping that balanced. Sales tax data. This year we have set monthly historical records in September, October, November, and December. So if you'll look at that graph, you'll see we had the highest sales tax ever in September, October, November, and December for the city. January of 2024 was our highest sales tax of all time. We did not hit that number again this January. So I think we can read two things into that. One, maybe some of that's election related or election fear in some way or another. Two, I do think the economy started to slow a little bit and people were being a little more cautious in their spending December of 24 as compared to December of 23. I tried to see if there were any anomalies in our sales tax report. That's really hard to do now. It used to be that we had 600 businesses reporting on our sales tax report. Now we have 1,700 because of online sales. So if someone spends $40 at Ulta, that shows up on the sales tax report as a separate line item. So now that report is so much harder to navigate through. I couldn't really see any anomalies, but it is possible. Sometimes, like if we found out that a business was registered in the wrong jurisdiction, they'll make an adjustment on a sales tax report. Sometimes that accounts for it, but overall, I think people just spent more money last December than they did this December. We still had a strong December. It was very comparable to the year before, 2023, 2023. We have an 86.7% increase since June of 2014. So if you're looking at a 10-year overall trend, our sales tax for the City of Sweetwater has gone up 86%. Coincidentally, that is also the first full year of being a Main Street organization, which I don't think is a coincidence. So I thought I'd point that out too. This is our annual local option sales tax collected. You can see that it's risen every year. And it has healthy growth every year. So in 2014, I went to a training by the comptroller's office, and they told us that cities who relied on sales tax more so than property tax survived the 2008 recession better. So at that point, we brought that information back to the city board. The city board kind of collectively as a whole decided they wanted to try and start focusing more on sales tax and entrepreneurship development and those kind of things. And Main Street was one of the steps we took towards that. I definitely think that's paid off. I hope this graph, is helpful in kind of depicting that. You were asking about traffic in Sweetwater. So I narrowed it down to just unique visitor counts and had Haley run reports on that. In 2017 in the Main Street district, we had 93,200 unique visitors. So that's that one person's phone, not counting the repetitive times they come. And on average in the Main Street district, people return 6 to 7 times a year. 6 to 7 times a year. I didn't know if I said that clearly, like not 67, 6 to 7. And compare that to 2024 in Main Street, unique visitor counts 203,500. So we have more than twice as many people coming to the Main Street district now as we did in 2017. Citywide, in 2017, it was 507,800 unique visitors coming to the city limits of Sweetwater and staying at least 10 minutes. It's not just them driving through, it's the ones that are actually here spending time in the area. And in 2024, that's 772,000. So there are definitely more people in Sweetwater. A huge chunk of them are travelers. We can tell you how many are travelers. I cannot tell you how many are actually people that have their zip code here. This is their home zip code. That's a 60% increase in sales tax since 2019. I wanted to point out this $2,843 per month on the dinner bell annexation. We annexed the dinner bell in 2011. Does that sound right, Mayor? 2011, I think. And at that time, the dinner bell was already in the county, already a business, already operating, already generating sales tax. When you annex a business that's already in operation, the state statute says that you have to then take the average of the last 12 months. The city gets any growth that happens after the time of annexation. But everything that is the baseline at the time of annexation remains going back to the county, which was its original jurisdiction for sales tax, for 15 years. So one, that's very important for economic development going forward. If you're ever going to annex anything that's going to be potentially commercial or commercial district that's generating sales tax, that you do it before they build the building and open the business, so that you get the sales tax from the start instead of having to play this back and forth game. But also, when I saw it this month on the sales tax report, I thought, I wonder if we should still be having to pay that since the dinner bell doesn't exist anymore. It was torn down in 2022. So we went back, got the records. I emailed the Department of Revenue. She told me there was a portion of the statute that says we can petition that and ask for that money we would still have to pay through July of 2026. So we still have another year and several months worth of payments to make on that. And we don't pay it to them, they deduct it out of our sales tax report every month, that 2843. So we can petition. So today I sent in a petition asking them to stop it and also go back to 2022 when it was torn down. I don't know if that's in the statute. I don't know if they will let us go back, but we'll see what happens with that. So I'll keep y'all updated on that when I hear back from the state. Local option sales tax revenue, there's our budgeted amount. What we've received so far is 2.6. We're 70% through, and that's only based on months, I think. So that's running about a month ahead. So I do still think that we'll have more sales tax revenue than what we budgeted for this year. I think it'll still be an overage. State sales tax revenue is about where it should be, but also running about a month ahead. So I think we'll have more on that. Current property tax revenue, we actually did have really good collections for property tax. It's probably not a coincidence that we also had a tax sale this year. So when they sell the old properties off, the clerk and master also collects all the way through the current year. So that usually does give you a little bit of bump in the current year because some of these old properties that are going to go back on the tax roll because they've sold at the tax sale are also caught up. So that helps a little bit too. If I compare month to month last March or what we had collected through March 31st of 2024, that was 2.6. We're up about 1.7% from last March, and state sales tax is up about 2.5%. These are some of my other funds. Revenues today, budgeted expenditures. Now, State Street Aid looks really bad. It looks like we only have $167,000 in revenue, and we were supposed to get $932,000. That is a wild guess on my part because of all the grants we have in State Street Aid right now. So we have the multimodal grant, which is over $1 million. We have the TAP grant, which is around $250,000. And we have the STP grant, which just paved Hawkins and Linwood Road, which is around $300,000 probably, a little less than $300,000. So all of those were factored in. The multimodal grant didn't get as far as we wanted it to this year, so that's probably the biggest difference in where that grant funding is. As far as gasoline tax is going, we're right on target with where we should be for gas tax. So what is actually the current year revenue for gas tax is coming in about like it should. Same thing with expenditures. You can see we had budgeted $970,000. Well, that's if we had gotten to construction on the multimodal grant, which we're still in design right now. So that's why the expenditures are only $201,000 because we didn't get to that point in that grant. And a big bulk of that $201,000 is the paving project on Hawkins and Linwood. Drug fund, usually we have more drug fund revenue when summer starts, so that's probably going to end up being okay. As you can see, we've hardly spent any funding out of drug fund, kind of waiting to see what that revenue does. Tourism, revenues have come in about a little higher than what we expected. Expenditures have not been quite as much, but we're about to correct that because, of course, this weekend is our biggest festival, so we do put quite a bit of money into that event. Sanitation is about what we would expect it to be at this point in the year. I just want to do this grant update every quarter. We have 29 open grant contracts totaling $10.2 million. We did recently complete and close out the 3 railroad grants. The only thing we are waiting on is the coordination for those stop boxes that are at the corner that tell you not to turn when there's a train on the tracks. We're waiting on the railroad to coordinate with TDOT on that. I might be giving the same update next quarter. The 150th mural was completed, so we'll be asking for reimbursement on that from East Tennessee Foundation. They provided that grant funding. The Tennessee CyberSafe grant, Landon Purdy applied for his first grant last year and got a $24,000 grant for the city. So we said, what the heck, let's apply again. Landon did the application again, and we were awarded $58,000, which will pay for the $30-some-odd-thousand generator at City Hall, which we were going to have to take out of general fund budget next year. Or apply for a FEMA grant for it. So Landon, good job on getting that generator grant. It's also going to do some computer stuff that normally comes out of general fund, so that's going to save us having to just pay for that. We'll have some revenue to offset that. The ARPA funds have been closed out. We did a report April 1st for that grant. We still have to do one more final report on it, like showing completed what everything was done, but that will probably be 6 more months before we do that final grant, so it's still showing as an open contract. The Main Street Marketplace upgrades where we did the fencing and things, that grant has been closed out and reimbursed. Hawkins and Linwood paving, obviously the construction part of that is done now, but we haven't completed all the paperwork to get the invoices reimbursed yet, but those will be pretty soon, for sure before the end of the fiscal year. Debt summary, I left the same debt summary screen in there. You'll notice it didn't change from last quarter. I only update that at fiscal year end, so you'll only see a change in that at the June 30th report. We are paying off principal throughout the year, but I just only updated the end of June 30th, so that screen's the same as the last quarterly report. Pipeline development. Last week we did our annual Shark Tank project. We partnered with Sweetwater Merchants and Property Owners Association on. We gave every grad at Sweetwater High School and Cross Creek a lapel pin for the 150th that they'll get to wear on their graduation stoles or on their graduation gowns. We've worked with the high school seniors economics class at the high school on the Shark Tank projects. We had 2 projects that had perfect scores, which is pretty unusual. John Campbell helps me evaluate those, and I put a couple of people, not their whole group, but some of the shots of the kids. The guys group did duck calls. They were manufacturing duck calls, and they actually made like 25 duck calls and put them in a display box that they had built in wood shop, and like they had a marketing plan for it. They made a special commemorative 150th duck call for it. Like they really went all out. They had matching t-shirts for their team. Like they did a great job. And then the other group, the girls did a bakery, and they had a 150th cupcake. And I'm on keto and didn't get to eat that cupcake. I was real bad about it, but this class really did a very good job. It makes them interested in operating businesses. It's a great learning tool for them, but this is how we get the next generation to be a little bit interested in what's going on in Sweetwater and making sure we're making some kind of connection and relationship with them. And of course, things like the Junior Main Street Board, who are going to be helping us this weekend a lot, those things are also part of pipeline development. We've already talked about the traffic light maintenance. On the 150th, we had a great Founders Day. I know several of you all were there, including Ms. IT Lenore, Joanna Jinks. We had a good time. All the volunteers were really into it. That committee has been a great committee. They've all shown up when they're supposed to. They've done what they're supposed to do. It's been great. We've got July 4th coming up. We're going to have a happy birthday party for the fire truck, which is turning 100 years old. And we've got some neat plans for that. You might even get to hear the history of the fire truck as told by the fire truck, aka Larry Anderson. We have a soapbox derby in July. If anybody wants to build a soapbox derby car and get in that race, they can. The fair, and this is the thing I needed you all to be okay with. I want to have our very first ever drone show. Costs about the same as what a fireworks show does. It's already included in the budget that we've put in for next year for the 150th celebration. But I would like to do a drone show on the Saturday night of the fair. It's with 150 drones, which is just coincidental, but isn't that interesting? And it's like, it's very low impact to the environment. You don't have people calling because they have PTSD or because their dogs run off, or like, in a lot of ways, I think the drone show might even be received better than the fireworks show is. But I wanted to have something really special during the fair that we've never had before. So that's what I hope to get your all's authorization to sign the contract for. And we can put that on May 5th if you want. Josh has already written the musical that we're going to be performing in November, and it is about Sweetwater and some of the old stories in Sweetwater, so I think it's going to be a really neat one. That's a great fundraiser for Main Street. We'll have a closing candlelight service, and mostly you'll see in the budget I've already put an amount in there for the 150th, the same amount that we've spent the first half of the year, we're spending the second half of the year, so we're hoping that that gets passed. This department heads, we all had an incident command tabletop meeting on February 12th. That went really well. A couple things came out of that, including the generators. The need for a generator came out of that. What we do is we had AI generate different scenarios specific to Sweetwater, Tennessee, and we went through what those emergency operations and procedures would be. I'm really appreciative to John Anderson and Eddie Byram for leading us through that and kind of helping us see their side of things and knowing what some of our support roles could be in those type of incidents. And I think it's important that we're always just kind of thinking about that stuff and planning ahead. We did have a department head training a couple months after that, just last month. One of the things I talked about was the Peter principle, which is people rise to the level of their own incompetence. So sometimes we promote people because they're a high achiever or because they're really good and they're not a leader. And so we talked a little bit about that and like looking in our departments for who our next leaders are going to be. We also mentioned merit pay. Merit pay is really meant to be a tool to reward those high achievers. Maybe you're not promoting them because they're not really a leader. Maybe they're a high achiever though and you want to reward them somehow. So you use merit pay for that. You don't just take merit pay and split it evenly among everybody. In fact, if we continued to do that, work comp would make us start counting that as part of their salary because they would say that's a bonus that they count on or depend on. And then we'd have to start paying work comp premium on that. Right now we get to exempt it from work comp because it's supposed to be, you don't really know who's going to get it and it kind of depends on what the department head and the commissioner want to do. So that's just a little reminder on that. We are doing our annual citywide training with all the employees on May 14th from 11 to 2. It is mandatory for all the employees to be there. You all are, of course, invited if you want to be. All of our vendor vendors that do benefits for our employees, including retirement, health insurance. All those people are here at that meeting. And then we do some of the stuff that we're required to do annual training on, like cybersecurity and Title VI and sexual harassment and those type policy type things. We did have a property tax sale that sold the years that were due from 2013 to 2020, February 26th. That property tax sale brought in quite a bit of revenue. They're still doing their publications. Technically, there's a 6-month right of redemption on some properties, and there's 12-month right of redemption on others, but we did get revenue off that property tax sale. We talked about the revenue for the city transportation mod already. I did want to ask you all, well, I talked to MTAS this afternoon. On page 32 of our employee handbook, it says that we are allowed to authorize unpaid leave and continued benefits for employees. So I would like to request that the board support my authorization of approving unpaid leave on Gary Newman. He will be out of paid leave time around May 15th, and it may be that employees donate and stuff and get him to July 1st. He has filed for retirement, but he still needs his health insurance. We are not allowed to extend COBRA benefits, or we are not allowed to pay the premium for COBRA beneficiaries. That's not authorized by statute. We don't have the authority to do that. So MTAS recommended that we use it as unpaid leave, and we say that Gary is still an employee until his unpaid leave, until we choose to terminate his unpaid leave and his health insurance. I asked them if we needed a motion and to vote on this, and she said no, and I said I would still like to let my board know, because it does feel like we're setting a bit of a precedent with that. She did double check our handbook and make sure that that was something that was acceptable, but it would be my recommendation that we consider Gary Newman to be on unpaid leave, and maybe update this in 18 months and see if it needs to be continued for further unpaid leave.
Can we put that on the agenda for Monday night?
We can, but we don't have to vote on it. So
I think it, for the record, and what we just went through, it may be a good idea to have a vote on it. What do you think?
I'm fine with that if you all want it on the May agenda.
Because you might add also that he has applied for the other benefits of disability package.
Yes.
What do you say? I didn't understand.
He has applied for other benefits.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You have to be really careful because this is all HIPAA protected. So
I guess the flip side of it is, as you said, if we vote on it, if we pass it, are we setting a set precedence?
I do think you all should acknowledge in your own minds that this is a precedent you are setting. That is very accurate. My response to that would be, if we left it like it says in the handbook right now on page 32, that we can approve unpaid leave for an employee and keep them on unpaid leave and continue their benefits for them. What the handbook says is that if they are unable to return to work, so they never come back to work, then we may go back and charge them for the health insurance cost for the time that they were out. But it does not say we're required to. So if I, as city administrator, make that decision not to go back and charge them for that, hoping that my board, understands that and is in agreement with it, then that's not really setting a precedent unless you're saying, hey, this is a person that's been here 35 years and has been fully employed and is eligible for retirement.
Yeah, but think
So,
about it, it could happen
if
to
you had,
anybody.
it could. You're just not going to have very many people that work here 35 years and are not eligible for Social Security and Medicare yet. Like, that's a very finite. But yes, you are setting a precedent to some degree.
I think this is a bad example of term, but it's similar to what we do with planning commission. In my brain, is how I'm thinking about it. It's use on review.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't vote on it and we use the handbook that we have, what I'm understanding is each scenario, each situation that comes up, the way it is right now, we have the opportunity to discuss and review it and make those adjustments.
Yes.
If we make a motion and vote on it, then it sets it in stone and we can't look at it as use on review.
That might be a John Cleveland question. I will tell you that when I asked MTAS if the board needed to vote on it, she said no, and that she felt like the handbook already addressed this.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that you can't vote on it.
Sure. I just wanted to be careful and ask those questions on what gives us the most flexibility moving forward to help each and every employee. Okay.
And I guess you could pass an amendment to the handbook to add very specific criteria for when unpaid leave is considered acceptable. That might get you, out of having to do this for everyone, every employee going forward.
We could put in there each case would be analyzed.
That is kind of what it is now. It's kind of like on a case by case. That's what it says now, basically. It's a case by case basis, and you make HR makes
So
the
the
determination.
handbook covers that?
Right now, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is basically to cover the cost of the insurance, right?
Yes.
I tell you,
And
we need to look real seriously about our guys that's worked here a long time and develop health problems and then have to go out. Because Gary has dedicated 35 years of his time and life to save the people and the property of Sweetwater from harm and damages and all that good stuff. And if we can't take care of our own people that's willing to do that, then we're hurting.
to me, if I look at this case, we are not going to have very many employees that serve 35 years and are not eligible yet for Medicare. So Gary started so young and has been here so long. That's
Right.
kind of an anomaly.
That's
So-
my point.
So I guess the question is, do you all want it on the May 5th agenda, or do you just want us to go with what's in the handbook now and do it on a case-by-case basis and move forward?
I think it needs to be dedicated by a case-by-case deal. We just can't go out and offer to everybody. But people that's got special needs, special case like Gary's got, they're the ones that need to be taken care of.
Basically, what we're hearing though is our handbook, the way it's written right now, allows us to do that, and we don't have to change
Without
anything.
vote.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Playground resurfacing. Oh, Sean. This is the
Way
last
to
thing on
go,
my
Sean.
report, y'all, I promise. So when insurance, we actually put $35,000 in the budget year before last to refinish the playground surfacing. The two playgrounds we have that are pour in place surfacing, which is like the spongy, nice stuff that's real expensive. There's one at Engelman Park, and then there's one at the Pirate Ship playground over by the soccer field. So those are the two playgrounds we're talking about. We didn't ever take bids on that or go through the process of getting vendors to quote on that. So, that money expired with the budget. It wasn't spent. We didn't do it. When insurance came and did their inspection last month, one of the recommendations is that we take care and address that problem. Sean has temporarily addressed that problem, probably enough to get us through insurance saying, okay, it's okay. The question is, and as we move into the budget discussion and the budget review, it's something that should probably be addressed there. If we are going to keep those pour-in-place surface playgrounds, they require that maintenance every 10 to 12 years. And we're coming up on 10 years for the Pirate Ship, and we're well past the 10 years on the Engelman Park, which is why it was in the budget a couple years ago. However, Sean got quotes on that, and let me also be clear about this. On playground equipment, we do not have to bid that out. Typically what you do on playground equipment is you use the networks that specialize in playgrounds, and you can get pricing from multiple vendors within that network, but you don't necessarily do an open bid. And the reason you don't do an open bid is because a lot of people will come in and not compare apples to apples, and it's really hard to draft the bid specs tightly enough to keep people from not comparing apples to apples. So most of the time on playground equipment, you choose what vendor you want to purchase from, and then you purchase from that vendor as long as they're part of the cooperative purchasing network, which our purchasing policy does allow and the state law does allow us to bid that way. When we got the quotes from the vendor that put them in initially, what were they, Sean?
It was a grand total of about $65,000.
For both of them.
Yeah.
So instead of that 35 I had put in the budget a couple years ago, it's closer to 65,000. That is not in the draft of the budget. So if we want to keep those pour-in-place surfacing fixed and maintained, we need to add $65,000 to the recreation budget. And then the next question would be, do you want to bid that out? Do you want to leave that up to Parks and Rec Commission to select the vendor? There's only one vendor that really has ties to Monroe County, and that's the one that we've kind of been using, because usually when we call him, he does answer. He's the one that built the last playground we did. But there is a whole network full of people that do pour-in-place surfacing, so we can check prices with multiple ones if you want. But that can be part of the budget discussion, but that was one specific thing that I knew we needed to talk about. The other thing we need to talk about is gun pay. Alan was probably going to bring that up if he had been here, because he feels like his department's probably going to have additional funding added to the budget, since we can no longer let employees purchase those items on gun pay. According to the results of the comptroller's report, that's now going to have to be purchased by the city. So, you know, at some point that makes an impact on the budget, since it's not employees buying it anymore, and some of that stuff will still have to be bought. So, those are the two budget notes I had to pass on to you all. That's it for my report, unless anybody has any questions about any of that so far.
So you keep saying this pour in place and the amount of money. What's plan B? Like, is there any other?
You could rip out the pour in place and just put mulch down and have a mulch playground there instead. That meets the requirements for safety. It's just not as nice a playground. But
That sounds like the best way to go.
to do the mulch in there, it would probably be 5,000 instead of 65,000. But
How many times do you have to replace it a year?
They haven't been replaced yet.
How much of it did
No,
you
if it was mulch.
Truckload of mulch is $2,500. That would probably do both playgrounds, but you're gonna have to do that every couple of years.
well, and
That's-
we don't have to decide this right now. If y'all actually want to drive out and look at the
I'm gonna
playground,
say
that
as
might make a
grandmother
difference.
with grandchildren, that surfacing is really nice.
Yeah.
It's spongy, you don't have to worry about them getting hurt, you don't have to worry about them getting mulch in their eyes or in their mouth when they fall on their face. That's just something to think about. I don't know if it's worth $65,000, but that's what makes those playgrounds special, I think.
Is that
And-
cost, do they tear out what's there and put in a whole new surface, or do
I
they
understand.
The-
surface over?
The bottom layer
So
is
what
still in
this-
good shape.
What
Yeah.
this is, it's the bottom layer of it, the guy said is still good. So that's gonna leave a top layer that's approximately an inch and a half thick. They're gonna have to replace.
That's good stuff, ain't it?
When we first
Have-
poured that pirate ship playground, it was a $100,000 grant, 50% match. So that $100,000 grant, $65,000 of that was the pour in place surfacing. So the actual equipment that you see is only $40,000, $35,000 of it. The pour in place is the expensive part. So that's what we paid initially to have just that one playground done.
But
And you pay for the safety factor involved in it.
how long has it been in place?
The pirate ship one, I think we did in 2017 or 2018, maybe 2017, I think.
So 7 years in Sweetwater math. So 7 years. What is that per year? If you just take a quick. I don't know if I could get my calculator.
10,000
No.
a year.
Yeah.
Is the one at Engelman that's torn up, is the pirate ship one?
I'm sorry.
Are they both about the same condition, or is one worse than the other?
They're probably about the same.
Okay.
So
So, like, the worst parts of it is like at the ends of the slides.
Yeah.
This, where their feet dig in when they hit the ground. That has actually went through that top layer and dug pretty deep into the second layer. But he said they can patch that and then just re the top layer. But both of them are pretty bad.
I personally hate the mulch idea. To me, it's such a mess. Like, all the kids, half the time it'll be outside your playground perimeter, and so it'll be all in the grass and everything else, and all I can see is half the kids taking our mulch home in their pants, and
or picking it up, throwing it at each other.
right? Like, it just doesn't sound like playgrounds that we want. So I would be against the mulch, even though obviously it is a lot cheaper. But I also think it's
You're right,
more.
it does disappear.
It just walks away. It really does walk away. So
Swings where they are mulched.
yeah, it's a lot more maintenance. You guys would be spending a lot more maintenance and getting a lot more mulch multiple times a year. Probably not even every other year.
So just kind of putting this in your head, we've got a week before first reading of the budget, which is May 5th. And then we have another workshop at the end of May. We'll hear from the Board of Education there, but that will be pretty much dedicated to discussion on the budget. And then hopefully we do second and final reading that first week in June. So you've got some time if you actually want to go look at the playground and figure out what we should do about that. Technically, you could do it as an amendment halfway through the year. We could decide later, but I do think it's only going to get worse if we. I will tell you, once they get one little hole in it, it starts to get picked at and stuff, and it starts to get bigger and better. Which, if we're pulling the whole thing out and fixing the whole thing, then it's the same either way. But it'll probably get worse the longer we wait. But we do have a little bit of time before we have to decide what and how much to put in the budget. So if y'all.
We don't wanna put decorative fish in.
They did really they were sharks, Sean.
Somebody
They were
cut the fish
sharks.
out of the shark.
Somebody cut the sharks out like immediately.
No
And I went
way.
on Facebook and said some not nice things and got yelled at for it. But I was
So-
real mad about that.
So we have 35,000 in the budget, but we
We
need.
had 35,000 in the budget that we did not spend, so it lapsed last year. You know, we didn't spend it, but technically we didn't spend it on anything else either. So I mean, I guess you can think of that was allocated at one point for this.
Okay. Where I was headed is, so we got to come up with 30.
I think you actually have to come up with 65. You have to come
Okay.
up with the whole amount because there's nothing in the budget for the playground resurfacing in this upcoming year.
Okay.
How
You
fast
got,
can we
you
get
got
this
anything in
done?
your budget we can borrow some money from?
They're probably, if we ordered it tomorrow,
just
they'd
gonna-
probably be 3 months out. Like it'll
what
take
we
them a
can do,
while to
June,
come
fine.
and be able to do it. I think.
I would think the playgrounds are going to be hit really hard this summer since the pool is going to be closed. So I would say that it definitely is going to need to be done.
Okay, you done?
I'm done.
Done.
You want a drink of water after all that?
Okay, moving along. We will now move on to the May 5th agenda. We have minutes and distributions, the budget ordinance for first reading. We also have 2 items from Planning Commission, a zoning ordinance for the partials off Inglewood, Edgewood. Edgewood, we will be annexing that, and then a request to close a portion of Rose Lane. John, do you want to elaborate on Rose Lane?
Yeah, that's, just a small old strip that was initially planned out as right of way, public right of way. It's never been used. The owner, Lyman, owns parcels on either side of it, has mowed it, maintained it for 25+ years.
Okay.
She's just asking to formally close that.
That's the part we
so
already
that she can
annexed. So
put
now
her
we need
garage
to zone
there.
it.
The other owner that is on the backside of it, Tim and Karen Thomas, they said they have no objection. They thought it had been closed years ago anyway. The planning commission recommended it.
Utility board doesn't need it.
No, talk to utility board, they have no use for it.
Okay, that'll be on the agenda next Monday. Department head reports, David.
We've got a lot going on. We're mowing the sides of the road. We wrapped up the Circle Park project, as far as we're going with anyway. And we've got a lot of other stuff going on. We've been helping elementary schools, ball courts, things like that. I mean, I could go on and on about the stuff that we're gonna be doing in the next month or so. It's just a lot right now. The weather's good. Really good for work.
Okay. Sean, you done give yours?
We're doing what we do. We're getting a lot of rain, so grass is growing. We're trying to get caught up with that this week. This past Saturday, we had, it wasn't really a parks thing, but it was, we kind of partnered with Operation Inasmuch. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but it's the church organization. There was 8
Okay. John Campbell.
We're getting busy too. It's that time of year, coming out of winter into spring. We're getting building permits. I know that Hector Jeremillo is working on the next phase up there at Willow Creek. He's been in contact with us in the last week or two, moving forward about getting the road built and that sort of thing. So you'll start to see that moving forward over the next year or so. I don't know how much validity there is to it, but I did get an email from Aaron Hicks saying that the owner out there behind Burger King had contacted him, wanted to know if they, what they need to do to potentially move forward with that project. So whether or not they do send in a site plan, again, it'd have to go through the whole process of planning commission approval, but at least there's interest there. I think whether it's economy or inflation or whatever, things kind of turning around and getting busy again. I don't think it'll get as crazy as it did in 2022, but there's a lot of people calling and coming by, sending plats, wanting to know if they can subdivide this and put a house here and there. So I think business is picking up.
Okay, Eddie.
Well, I tell you, just to touch on what John said, business picking up and people coming here that'd be crazy to not want to come here. I really feel that we've got the best community, especially here in East Tennessee. And I don't travel very much, but I don't go very big places that I see that are represented much better than we are. As far as departments working together, our department enjoys working with every one of these guys and ladies, these other groups. She was talking about traffic earlier, and we're seeing a huge amount of traffic. And one thing that Commissioner Stutz had talked to me about, when he came back in and assisted and filled Commissioner Stockton, was, did I have any plans for the traffic? And I went out and I've started a traffic unit that we're getting up and on the ground running. And I've got a couple guys here today that's gonna talk briefly. I told them just try to keep it about 5 minutes, but they're excited, Mayor. They were able to go out like Landon did and acquire grants that got us equipment, as well as working with Jessica, of course. I mean, she's a cornerstone to all them grants to keep all that crazy paperwork together. But they were able to take through the railroad. We got a grant for them. I think it's like $25,000. They're gonna tell you about a couple pieces of equipment. And then George's gonna talk to you about a grant that he was able to get on Governor's Highway Safety. That we've got these tough books that he's got in front of him. He actually brought the tough book to show you. Every one of our patrol cars has that in it, and he's gonna tell you just kind of briefly what it can do.
John Anderson.
Everything's going smooth. Our inspections have kicked off, so we're busy with that. Other than that, normal business.
Okay. All right, you want to introduce our police officers at this time? I'll turn it over to them. Franco.
So, I know everybody in here. We're going to talk about, we brought some equipment, so that over there to see, and then this LiDAR gun is something that we were able to acquire through that grant through the railroad, so it didn't cost the city a bit. And I think between these two things, we used up probably everything but $100 of the grant, so it worked out perfectly. That over there is a crime scene mapping kit. So basically, we can use it on, if we have any homicides, any bad car accidents, fatal car accidents and stuff, we can actually set that up. And we're not going to do it right now because it kind of takes a minute to set up and map everything. We can use it for that, and it's very convenient for even just simple car accidents. This right here, what I have in my hand is a LiDAR gun. So everybody knows if you've been pulled over for speeding or something, usually the officer got you on his radar. Well, LiDAR is now the new, better thing. It's been out for a while, so it's not new. But this is probably the absolute best LiDAR gun money can buy. Like I said, it was free for us, so that's very convenient for us. So not only does it track your speed, but it also takes pictures. So we can use it for not only speed enforcement, but seatbelt enforcement, hands-free enforcement, things like that. That's two things that we were able to acquire through that grant.
So you can see how many people are in a car.
Yeah. Oh, it's.
So it's like heat
So
activated?
It bounces off like vehicles and stuff like that.
So can you tell if a driver has a gun?
No, like you will see the literal image of them. Like it's not like a special like infrared or anything.
So it's basically like it takes a
It's
picture.
zoomed in.
It takes a picture of them. It also takes a video. That way, when they go by, you can actually get the license plate as well. That way, they
But to
can't
answer
harm
your
you.
question, yes, if they've got a gun, you can.
I mean, yeah, if they have it, yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
a clear image, you can tell, you can identify them on it.
Yeah, it's very clear. So I can't show you much right here. So it's very zoomed in. So what you're seeing right there is the corner of that picture that's hung up right there. So it's very good quality also. Now Jordan's going to be talking about these computers that we got. He was able again to secure them through a grant as well as some other trailers that we got that are speed trailers, and he's going to elaborate on how he can actually analyze traffic data just with those speed trailers.
So these computers are tough books. We got them from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office grant. We got awarded about 30 grand, 15,000 for overtime, 15,000 for computers and accessories. These computers actually go for about $1,700. We needed 16 of them. Well, if you do the math on that, that's about $28,000. I was able to make a great contact with this the Rugged Book company. He was able to get us a huge deal. We got 16 laptops, 16 mounts, and 16 car chargers, all for a little under 15 grand.
Wow.
So we were able to pay for everything with that grant, and only have probably about $300 left over from that, plus the overtime. It makes our job just a little bit more simple. We are able.
If you don't care, Jess, we're going to put it on the
My HDMI
so everybody
cord.
can see what he's talking about as it goes.
Now, is that one got the tag reader on it?
No, sir. Well, I mean, technically,
Yes, it
so
does.
we have the where we can run the tags. Yes. So he's going to show you all up there.
So every shift we normally do a daily log of where we go and what happened on that call. We're able to actually put it in on our computer and type it out rather than handwrite it. It saves a little bit of time. We also are connected to our flock safety cameras, so it'll send alerts directly to the computer. There will be a little ding notification. I'm sure you heard one earlier, and it'll let us know where it's at, what car it is, and it gives us a bigger view of it rather than on our cell phone, so we can actually make distinct notifications on the car. Like if it has stickers, we can see those better. So we have that.
So along with this, it makes it so much more convenient having the computers actually in our vehicles for this specifically. So what you're seeing right here, if some of you are not familiar with this system right here, it's actually something else that the city was able to provide us. That is probably, I'd say it's probably our best tool. It's taking crime down, and it helps us solve a lot of cases. What you're seeing right there is somebody that we have entered that has warrants. So right here, let's say Jordan's driving down the road, and he is near. This is up there on Highway 11 North, near the Memorial Gardens. So he'll get a ding. He'll click over on it. It'll be a hot list hit, and then he'll look at it, and he'll have a big view of the vehicle right here. So he can click on that, and then pass on any other information for anybody that may be close.
We can also run our tags from it through the Tennessee Criminal Justice Portal. I'm not logged in currently. Here, let me get logged in.
And what this is, it's another, I guess, one of our better tools that we have, and we can run license plates, driver's licenses, search people for any vehicles they may be associated with. It also will let us know if the person is a convicted felon inside the state of Tennessee or was once. So that way we can be more cautious and stuff on look and see what kind of charges they have. So right here, instead of trying to get a hold of dispatch, because sometimes they get busy and they're not always able to respond back quickly, if we're behind a vehicle or something, we can just type in a tag right there and it'll pull it up, and we'll save some time on the radio by using that.
Because you can pull their driver's license from the tag, where they live, what the tag's supposed to come back to, basically anything like that.
And one thing I like a lot about it, Ford, it allows them to stay more out of the PD, and we're able to stay out in the community more in our vehicles, because they can automatically send that information. Yeah, I start saying, they information directly to premise. You've heard us talk about that, our report writing system, and it fills in the blank for them.
Yeah, so that's another thing that,
So they can do the reports right there in the car and email them directly to Vanessa, and people pick them up.
Which really helps out on our rec reports, because a lot of the time people forget to put their insurance cards in there. They have insurance, but they don't have the card. With the Titan 2.0 that we're working with for our crashes, you can actually put in the tag information, and a majority of the time, their insurance information will come along with that. That way you don't have to write them a ticket, even though you know they have insurance, they just can't give it to you, right?
yeah.
Do insurance companies participate?
So
in
it
that?
goes in to the DMV
she's always
actually
on
runs
me
it.
about
If the
that
DMV
card.
has it on file, they'll go ahead and put it on the Titan crash report.
And so this is real quick what Chief was talking about, is this is our report system. So I, for one, I will admit, I do tend to procrastinate sometimes. I let distractions get me, and it takes me a while to do something. Well, now that I have this, I literally, if I'll clear a call, I'll go and knock my report out and be done in 5 to 10 minutes. So it's already finished. And then the last thing,
Does that assist you in car accidents too, like a head-on collision out here on New 68? Does that help you in any way with wrecks?
oh yeah.
So you can start your wreck if so. Say it is a head-on collision, someone has to go to the hospital. Normally we have to go to the hospital with them to get their information from a family member that's either not there or is coming. We can actually take these into the hospitals and start our report there. That way we're not waiting. We can put all the information we do have already on the report, and then we're just waiting for the family member to bring the rest of the information. So it actually gets our reports done quicker.
And last but not least, this is a new program we actually just acquired as well, once we got these. So this, obviously the computers are in the vehicle with us. Well, sometimes one of us might be on a traffic stop or something and a call will come out, or somebody comes over the radio and puts them out on themselves out on something else. Well, this is called CAD, so it's a computer-aided dispatch. So what this is any call that comes in that dispatch creates, it will be placed on here on this screen. And not only does it give us the calls and tell us who's in service and who's on what. Right now, Kurt and Officer Corona are on a harassment call. Right here, it'll map it for you. So one of our new hires, Noah, he was very impressed. He's very impressed with all our equipment. He was like a little kid in a candy store once he saw everything we had. But so he's learning his road still. Well, this right here will map it for you. So let's say he's headed to this call and he'll say, oh, this is a harassment off Sunset. Oh, I know where the Town and Country store is. Yep, it's right behind it. So he can go there. These are all the calls for service that we got. And then, like, let's say we need our times for something. We're not tying up the radio again to ask dispatch what time we got to whatever. So right here, I can click on the call. This was a 1045, which was a vehicle accident with no injury. It was on TMG Road. It shows that they were on scene at 204. Right here's notes that dispatch will put in there. So they asked for a tow truck, and then it showed who it was. So that's some of the equipment and programs and stuff we've been able to acquire recently, and specifically mostly through grants.
Like I said, the city paid nothing for the laptops, for the mounts, or for the chargers. It was all on a grant.
We appreciate you guys letting us share with you, take a little bit of your time, and anytime that you're out and about and see one of the patrol cars, you want to hop in it with these guys, they'll be glad to show you how it works. I mean, it's just really, it's a game changer what I've seen in the last, I would say 10 years, but I'd go as much as say 5 years. I mean,
Is this something new that's just come out, or is it, are we just now getting it?
We're just now getting it. Larger cities, your Knoxville, Chattanoogas, they've had them in select zones, like their supervisors having them, but we're just now getting them. Now, the CAD system he showed is really new. I mean, it's, what, a year, Kelvin?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I think it's interesting. I don't know, we talked about it one day where like a silver alert, a guy's in a car, that we have cameras.
Yeah, it's hard to do that.
I think that is a lot of people don't know that. Would you explain that?
Yeah, so the flock cameras that we have, so along with I showed that hit up there, that was for the wanted person that had a warrant. Well, along with that, I'm glad you brought that up, Mayor. It not only alerts us to tags that we put in, but it'll give us any NCIC entry alert. So a stolen car, stolen tag, missing person, amber alert, silver alert. It'll send us that same message, and then we're able to try and locate the vehicle. And not only does it reduce crime, but it helps us, get people back to their families or get them medical attention, anything like that. There's a guy that's actually came up here twice. He has really bad dementia, and we got an alert that his vehicle came into the city off the interstate. Well, the police department down at the Florida Georgia line has been looking for him for 2 days, and this was probably 2 months ago maybe. And we found him, we pulled him over, and he was originally going for a drive to the Dollar General. Well, that turned into a 2-day drive to Sweetwater, to where he's been before at our hospital. And the only way we knew that is because they showed the last time he was checked in for the same reason. So I think that was a couple of years ago, but he was one of the nurses also recognized him. I don't know how, because it'd been 2 or 3 years since he last did it. But we were able to call he was an older gentleman, war vet, didn't have any family or anything. We were able to get a hold of some of his friends, and they kind of helped take care of him. So they came up here and picked him up and got him back safely to Georgia.
Our first
Great.
use of it was a silver alert. It was a lady from, I think, Michigan. She'd been on like a 3-day drive,
Yeah.
and she came into town, and we were able to stop her and get her reunited with her family.
Yep, we got a missing juvenile. We've got a couple missing juveniles, but this one was from Wyoming, I believe. He'd stolen his parents' car and was driving to Florida, I think. So, but he stopped in Sweetwater and got caught. So,
Does this work at night too?
yes, sir.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually just upgraded them to where it's way better at night now. Used to, you couldn't even get a picture of the car. It was very dark. So, yeah, it does.
Well, thank you very much, officers. Appreciate you going after this grant and coming here tonight and explaining this. That's good. Thank you, Eddie, for allowing them to be here. Anything else come before the board? We all ready to go home and eat? All right, we're dismissed. Thank you for being here.